Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for August 26, 2019. This week, let's begin with scholars and the danger of blind faith in something just because a person with a PhD wrote it. Cornell scholars cited in New York Times 1619 series charged with fabricating quotes and evidence. A Cornell University scholar cited in a recent New York Times piece tying slavery to capitalism was previously found to have inflated statistics, invented facts, and altered quotes according to fellow academics in his field. In other words, his research wasn't research at all. It was just lies. Lies he wanted to tell, the New York Times wanted to hear, and supports the story they wanted to perpetuate. In an October 2016 paper, scholars Alan Olmsted of the University of California, Davis, and Paul Rode of the University of Michigan harshly criticized the research of Cornell's Edward Baptiste, presented in Baptiste's 2014 book, The Half Has Never Been Told. In the book, Baptiste argues the modern capitalism still contains many of the remnants of slavery and America's current economy is still influenced by the exploitation of slaves. Among charges leveled by Olmsted and Rode were accusations Baptiste concocted numbers out of thin air and that Baptiste fabricated research to fit his narrative. At a public event at Dartmouth University in 2016, Olmsted decried Baptiste's work as hocus pocus while he waved an imaginary wand in the air. In an email to the College Fix, Rode said he preferred more open discussion and debate about important issues. What bothered me was when Ed Baptiste dropped out of public debates about his work, methods, and findings, Rode said. Gee, I wonder why he might have done that. Yet Baptiste was quoted approvingly by Princeton professor Matthew Desmond in a recent essay for the New York Times 1619 project, which is intended to reframe the nation's history around the narrative of slavery. Desmond's piece states that in order to understand the brutality of American capitalism, you have to start on the plantation. And he then quotes Baptiste saying that before the Civil War, Americans lived in an economy whose bottom gear was torture. Baptiste has also been cited by influential opinion journalists such as Tanisha Coates, who recently used the scholar's figures to argue in favor of reparations for African Americans. By 1836, more than $600 million, almost half of the economic activity of the United States, derived directly or indirectly from the cotton production by the million-odd slaves, Coates testified at a congressional hearing in June. Yet, according to Olmsted, Rode, and others, the $600 million number appears to be fabricated, using double and even triple counting to arrive at an inflated figure. Now, I'll let you all read the rest for yourself. It gets kind of long for this sort of video format, but these guys go on to point out just how inflated these numbers are and how Baptiste had gotten them through massive assumption and sometimes double or triple counting the same money to the point where if his method were actually carried out, slavery would have accounted for more than 100% of the nation's GDP, which is, of course, not just ludicrous, but impossible. The reason I bring this up is this is how lies become accepted truth in academia. One academic makes up a study full of outright bullshit. It's cited by another academic, and another, and then the press, and then on it goes to become a popular narrative tool for random people on Twitter or Facebook or wherever who've never actually read the thing, much less critically analyze it, and soon enough, fabricated bullshit becomes the bedrock to prop up every other bullshit theory. Now, to be fair, the New York Times is not unique in that regard. Lots of people do it. Hell, I'm no exception. Though I try to limit it, sometimes reality strikes. I don't have time to read and analyze everything from everyone on every topic I reference. I do have a life, or an undeath to deal with. So yes, on some occasions I do it too. The trouble with that is, we're trusting these so-called academics to research and present factual findings in good faith. That's certainly not always the case, and becoming less and less so these days. So we need to be more careful and discerning about what we consider to be truths presented by researchers or academics or whatever other name they wish to call themselves. Just because they have a PhD doesn't mean they're right. Case in point. This is why I generally just stick with common sense to debunk the bullshit. If your academic study can't stand up to common sense from an average, ordinary, unperson like me, then there's really no need to go any farther, is there? An expanded vocabulary and credentials doesn't turn bullshit into truth. Never lose your common sense, folks. If it sounds like bullshit, 9 times out of 10, it is. Okay, moving on. Democratic Representative Tom Malinowski, we need illegal immigrants to mow our beautiful lawns. Rather racist comment, don't you think, Tom? Representative Tom Malinowski, Democrat, New Jersey, defended the presence of both legal and illegal immigrants on Tuesday, asking his constituents, "Who do you think is mowing our beautiful lawns?" There are a lot of jobs in our community that, like it or not, for better or worse, Americans are not willing to take, Malinowski said in a video obtained by the Washington Examiner. You know, I am so sick of this particular line of pure bullshit. This is the same pile of crap Democrats tried to feed the country when slavery was abolished. Who's going to pick our cotton? Oh, noes! The whole economy is going to collapse without free labor. It didn't happen then, and it won't happen now either. Who mowed our lawns before we let 20 million illegals cross our border? Who harvested our crops before we let 20 million illegals cross our border? Who cleaned our offices, factories, homes, etc. before we let 20 million illegals cross our border? Who flipped our burgers and gave us fries with our order before we let 20 million illegals do it? Do you think this shit wasn't getting done before you imported a fuckload of illegals? Of course it was being done. By Americans. Teenagers looking to make a few extra bucks to buy a car or whatever gadgets they wanted, or to save up for college, or to get some job experience on their resumes. Low-skill workers who may not have had the opportunity to go to college for whatever reason, took these jobs and learned a marketable skill and worked their way up to something better. Americans will do these jobs. It just won't be as cheap as the under-the-table, tax-free labor that's hidden off the books. And that's really all you are doing by promoting this increased illegal immigration bullshit. You are crushing American poor. You are ensuring their wages will never go up because as soon as they want a raise, out they go for the cheaper illegal you fucktards keep flooding the job market with. Then you come along with your raise the minimum wage campaigns and force the other side of the equation. Up go their wages, so out go their jobs, and they're replaced by cheaper, off-the-books illegal workers. You are fucking both sides of the border like this, you dipshits. You're killing the poor people already here by making sure their wages will never rise, and at the same time, you're importing a fuckload of people who will not be covered by your stupid minimum wage laws because they're illegal. So they don't make enough money to drag themselves out of poverty either. You've simply taken poor people out of a poor country and made them poor people in a rich country. Congratulations, shit for brains. You fixed nothing for them. But you kept your own costs down and profits high, right? And that was the fucking point the whole time, wasn't it? If you actually cared about poor people at all, you'd stop undercutting their efforts to dig themselves out of the fucking hole you put them in. Cause and effect, you simpletons. These problems don't exist in a vacuum all by themselves. They are related. Okay, Bob, let's move on before I spend the next 3 days bitching about economic morons. San Francisco board rebrands convicted felon as justice-involved person, sanitizes other crime lingo. Cheese and rice. Crime-ridden San Francisco has introduced new sanitized language for criminals, getting rid of words such as offender and addict, while changing convicted felon to justice-involved person. The Board of Supervisors adopted the changes last month, even as the city reels from one of the highest crime rates in the country, and staggering inequality exemplified by pervasive homelessness alongside Silicon Valley wealth. The local officials say the new language will help change people's views about those who commit crimes. Yeah, because that's what we need. We don't need to stop crimes or anything. We just need to stop thinking of them as, crimes. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, from now on, a convicted felon or an offender released from custody will be known as a formerly incarcerated person, or a justice-involved person, or just a returning resident. Good grief. Returning resident. Hey fuckers, they weren't sent off to Nam. A juvenile delinquent will now be called a young person with justice system involvement, or a young person impacted by the juvenile justice system. Well, that just rolls right off the tongue, huh? And drug addicts or substance abusers, meanwhile, will become a person with a history of substance use. I'll stick with drug addict, thanks. It's shorter and accurate. We don't want people to be forever labeled for the worst things they have done, Supervisor Matt Haney told the newspaper. We want them ultimately to become contributing citizens, and referring to them as felons is like a scarlet letter that they can never get away from. Yeah, hey, douchebag, calling them something else doesn't expunge their record, erase their past, or change what they are. You can call it the fragrant remains of a previously digested nutritional substance, if you like. It's still shit. All right, toxic time, Bob. New York City woman sentenced for killing aunt with meat cleaver, raping relative. A New York City woman convicted of killing her aunt with a meat cleaver and raping a teenage relative was sentenced Tuesday to 23 years in prison. Elizabeth Sanchez, a 32-year-old, also known as Dinga Sanchez Ortiz, pleaded guilty in June to first-degree manslaughter and second-degree rape stemming from incidents that happened between December 2016 and March 2017, court records show. Sanchez murdered her aunt, Maria at her home in Jamaica in the borough of Queens in March 2017, acting Queens District Attorney John Ryan said. 50, reportedly allowed Sanchez to stay with her when Sanchez had nowhere else to go. This defendant brutally took the life of her close relative, someone who took her into her home when the woman did not have a place to stay, Ryan said, according to the Daily News. This was a brutal attack that has traumatized the entire family. Sanchez also pleaded guilty to raping a male relative under the age of 15 3 times. Sentenced to more than 2 decades in prison, Sanchez will serve her 2.5 to 7 year sentence on the rape charge simultaneously with her prison term for the murder of her aunt. Oof. 2 weeks in a row you're going to make me fall back on internalized misogyny, huh, Bob? I mean, once again, we have a woman killing a woman, not over a man or at a man's request or for the benefit of a man or anything. So internalized misogyny is all we've got left to go on because femininity just can't be toxic, like, at all. The rape? Well, I guess we should just be happy they're finally calling it rape instead of a sex romp. Moving on, let's wrap it up. MSU suggests employees avoid saying, "I apologize, no problem, sir, ma'am." Right. Quit being polite. Got it. Nope, not gonna keep reading. Evidently, that's how research works these days. Once you hear what you wanted to hear, you stop reading, and context be damned. So, we're stopping because I heard what I wanted to hear. They want me to stop being polite. Finally, something I'm happy to do for them. That's it for this week. Remember the social justice mantra: women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.